Well, I'm joined by the Managing Director of Sleepwell Hotels Group, Mark Wilson. Mark, we've come down to have a look at your place. I mean, there's two sides to this, I'm sure you realise. I want to see what you're doing because we've been around seeing how the Isle of Man is reinventing itself, but also we've got to touch on other matters as well. But first of all, I mean, we're hearing you spent millions of pounds on this redevelopment. Give us an idea of what you're doing.
Well, we started 3 years ago on a sort of plan to redevelop this particular hotel. So the Claremont now has a series of sort of business class rooms, if you like, which are sort of suites rooms, sea view rooms. And what we've tried to do there is sort of produce a business product which somebody who's into e-gaming or somebody who's coming from and a global business would be looking for a very, very high standard of executive accommodation with all the sort of mod cons, if you like.
Well, we're looking at these now. I mean, these rooms are amazing. I mean, I know people who've stayed in them actually, and say they rate them as some of the best. This put music to your ears.
Well, that's great feedback, clearly. But what we've tried to do is sort of introduce things like temper mattresses, so people get the best night's sleep in there. They've got great Wi-Fi connection. They've got Nespresso coffee machines. They've got Amazon showers. So it's geared to some of the mod cons that you would have at home, but mainly these rooms are sort of set up to accommodate the executive business traveller.
Right. I mean, this is the point now. You're investing here. You see a market for the Isle of Man?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we see the e-gaming again. I mean, that is becoming such a huge business over here. And what these companies need is they need a hotel partner. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to position ourselves as their hotel partner. So when they come to the island, they need the entire infrastructure to bring a new business. And that might mean relocating colleagues. Mm-hmm. So what they need is somewhere to put these colleagues to stay when they first move over, before they find permanent accommodation. And they need somewhere to do business. They need somewhere to have meetings, they need somewhere to have conferences, and they also need somewhere to have dinner. And we are trying to provide that whole one-stop shop for such relocations.
But I mean, the group does have different things for different people, doesn't it?
We do. I mean, we have the Rutland Hotel and the Chester House Hotel, both in Douglas. We have businesses in the UK and in London. But for this particular hotel, it's about the corporate business model, and we're trying to position ourselves as the number one hotel in that particular market.
I've got to ask you, have you had lots of money from government to help you on this?
We've not had a single penny from government, Paul. I mean, every single penny which has gone into this business comes from a sole benefactor, and it's owned by a private trust. And that particular gentleman is well known to the business community.
Jim Mellon.
Jim Mellon. And, you know, Jim is very passionate about the island, and since he relocated some of his businesses here, he's constantly put his own money into them. And, you know, we've never gone... This Claremont refurbishment, we have not had a single penny of government money.
I mean, you know where I'm going with this, because you were going to do an interview about it originally, and then you changed your mind.
We did, yeah.
I mean, but you did get sort of public about it. You were very,
we changed our mind because we were going to comment on it, but we did put out a press release at the time, but it became clear to us that the decision regarding what happened with the government money going into Sefton Group. It was quite clear to us very, very early on, Paul, that this was a done deal, and it was a political issue quite quickly, and it became clear that it was best left as a political issue. There were other senior people within government who were making comments, and we felt it was inappropriate for us to make any further statement.
Well, I mean, the dust settled a little bit, and I know you've had meetings since, so maybe you're all made up. But can you confirm you were interested in parts of that group?
I mean, let's make it clear, really, in terms of Jim Mellon, who owns the trust, who owned this group. He's always made it clear to senior members of government that Sleepwell, as a company, is hopefully going to acquire new sites, and it would make sense to us if any suitable sites on the Isle of Man became available, then of course we would be interested. Now, it's on that basis, it's somewhat baffling that we weren't asked if we would be interested. We weren't approached.
You weren't approached? That's interesting.
Now, I mean, had we been approached, we have the resources there, we have the cash, we have the skills within our company to take on new businesses, and let's be honest with you, if you were looking at the assets that may have been available, something like the Sefton Hotel would have clearly been an interesting proposition.
Okay.
Now, we weren't asked. Had we been asked, then we may have been having a completely different conversation.
Let's just go through this now. Would you wait for it to go into liquidation and then cherry pick it from the liquidator? Because that could
Well, we
cause
would be
problems.
looking at the assets. We wouldn't be looking at obviously taking on debt.
And you didn't want the other bits of the group, presumably?
Well, who knows?
Right.
Who knows? I mean, it's somewhat hypothetical as it stands. If the situation changes, if things change in the future, then we are quite open and we're quite clear on this. That we would certainly be interested in talking with the government to find a more suitable long-term solution.